Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2.
Let's go to him right now, Mike Griffiths. You think Nick Saban, after a year or two or three on game day, is going to come back to Alabama? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I'm not ruling it out.
All find on. Weekdays at 3 Eastern on the ESPN app and the SEC Network.
The Low Post Podcast with Zach Lowe.
I'm starting to think we might be underrating them a little bit, and the number one reason is Giannis looks like a man possessed right now.
Check out the Low Post Podcast on the ESPN app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yo, 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 what's up, party people? I'm Julie Foudy.
And I'm Lynn Ozawi.
We host the ESPN podcast Laughter Permitted, where we have candid chats with trailblazing women in sports and beyond.
We've talked with goats like Billie Jean King, Simone Biles, Mia Hamm, Sue Bird, Candace Parker, Michaela Schifrin, just to name a few.
So grab a donut or 500 and check us out wherever you get your podcasts. And a huge shout out to our presenting sponsor, Ally, who has supported us since day one. It's Laughter Permitted.
Coming to you live from the Superbook Sports Studios in Kettering. You're listening to Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, everybody, welcome in. It's the Kenner and Kev Show live here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. I'm Justin Kenner. He's Kev Nash. Here on a Tuesday, not a Monday. I mean, it feels like a Monday.
I saw the
comments.
Yes, I saw your comment section from your post reminding folks that we were off on President's Day. And oh boy, people got political on the post.
Oh, yeah. You know us, politics, religion. I love to get down into the nitty gritty of it all.
Oh, it was definitely one of those type of situations. I think we talked about this when we passed each other in the hallway, like so much to talk about going on in the world of sports. But like one of the things was like I hated being off yesterday because I was forced to watch ESPN and then I was forced to be on social media. And I don't know how you do it, man. I don't know how you watch so much ESPN and stay on social media because like I just got sick to my stomach and watched the movie instead.
It gets the juices going. It gets the blood flowing.
Gets the people going.
Gets me fired up and ready to go. But nonetheless,
I can see why you're so angry.
It's a lot to get into today. Let's see. ESPN's Heather Dinich. She'll join us coming up here around the corner. Excited to chat with her. We don't really talk to her in the month of February and really outside of August through December, really. But so the 12-team playoff format, we knew that was a thing. But now we know official dates. We now know the structure of this format. We now know exactly what to expect. And we're going to talk about that with Heather Dinich from ESPN coming up here just around the corner. But again, I'm Justin Kenner. He's Kev Nash. Off and rolling. Off yesterday, back at it here today. We open up the show with top of the hour headlines, of course, and really not so much headlines, but just kind of stories that caught my attention. And I kind of want to share and get your thoughts and our listeners' thoughts and go from there. So let's dive into this, Kev. Now, again, you could tell it's the NFL offseason. Stuff like this, generating headlines, the stuff that ticks you off when you watch these national shows. But this caught my attention. Social media, breadcrumbs. You know, you read the tea leaves on social media. Justin Fields, he has unfollowed a certain entity, and he has followed a couple of new friends on social media. Justin Fields has unfollowed the Chicago Bears on Instagram, but his most recent follows on Instagram and social media include the likes of Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London. Justin Fields to the Falcons. Is that in play?
I think that is in play. We've been talking about Justin Fields and his next landing space for quite some time, and my thought was always Atlanta number one. Obviously, he's from Atlanta. That zone read offense with him, Bijan Robinson, the big, tall wide receivers on the outside. What's a wide receiver's best friend that's quote-unquote inaccurate is tall, rangy wide receivers. I think it's a great fit for Justin Fields.
I like that. Look, there's quite a few landing spots for Justin Fields. I know there's some reports out there that the Chicago Bears are going to be announcing their plans at quarterback at the Combine next week. And some of those plans, and again, they don't know they're playing yet, according to some of these reports from ESPN's Jeff Darlington and some of these others that I've followed. Now, those plans could include Justin Fields being the guy in 2024, and then using, trading back as we've talked about, and just really restocking and restacking and loading a roster around Justin Fields. But that's a gamble, because if they don't really believe in, they may believe in the, Justin Fields and his progress, it doesn't mean that just because there's progress that means that he's an elite level quarterback that they feel that they could build around. Mm-hmm. If they feel that they could do that, then great. But it doesn't seem like that's the direction that they're going in. What do you make of these social media ploys, by the way? Do you think that there is something there? We're talking about young adults here. Social media has been a part of in our lives for quite some time. It is very passive aggressive, activity, if you will. I think there's something there. I think that there's something that I think that stuff matters when it's all said and done.
It doesn't matter, because the Bears still hold all the cards in this situation. Like, if they say, yeah, Justin Fields, we want you to come back and be the backup to Caleb Williams, he's going to be the backup because he's not an unrestricted free agent. Him unfollowing them, he's expressing his feelings about the whole situation, basically saying he doesn't want to be there. But we've also seen Deebo Samuels unfollow the San Francisco 49ers and then get his contract, and boom, plays in back-to-back Super Bowls with them. So, you can keep unfollowing and following whoever you want. That's your right. But, in Justin Fields' case, it's really not up to you. And especially when you're a player that you have high expectations and people still kind of believe in you. It's a difference when you're Aaron Rodgers, where you can flex that muscle. Like, if you don't have that muscle to flex and all that goodwill backed up and MVP trophies to back you up, you really are at the mercy of the team.
Yeah, and I think it matters. The reason it matters is because it's signals being thrown out. These players can't talk to the teams directly. They have their what do you call it? Their agents do it.
Mm-hmm.
But they can indirectly talk to the front office, because they know if they do this, that media will jump on it, and it's a way to talk to the front office without talking. Hey, I know my agent's talking to you, and he's being professional and talking all this stuff, but I'm letting you know I'm not feeling what's going on right now.
Right.
And I have my eye over here. Basically, it's signaling to the team, hey, I can't tell you that I want to play for the Falcons, but I'm telling you I want to play for the Falcons. Yeah. Hey, I like these guys. Hey, I don't like you anymore. Imagine if marriage worked that way.
Imagine that.
Hey, wifey, I'm going to unfollow you, and I'm going to follow this chick over here, and I need you to give me what I want and let me go over here. Like, imagine if marriage worked that way. Imagine if this job worked that way.
Well, they don't want him either, though.
That's the thing.
They don't want each other.
It's a relationship divided, that's for sure. Nonetheless, and by the way, it is one of those. I don't know if they don't want him or want. They haven't they haven't let him know that they want him. I'm sounding very high schoolish at this point. We'll see what ends up happening when it's all said and done. Next up, sticking to the NFL, Kev, according to the New York Post, the New York Giants are unlikely to use the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley, meaning he will become a free agent. Now, we talked last week. There was a report that went out that the Derrick Henry is going to be available. Joe Mixon's most likely going to be available. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really good running backs. And I don't know if Joe Mixon's still a really good running back, but he showed a little spark down the stretch for the Bengals. I don't think he could be an RB1 by any means, but he could definitely add depth. If you need a running back, this is the year to go get a running back. There's a lot of running back depth out there. Saquon Barkley could potentially be heading toward the free agent market based on the farewell from Derrick Henry. Lots of really good running backs hitting the market, but Saquon Barkley, where does he fit into the fold? What teams make sense for him if he does head to the free agent market?
I'm still rolling with the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers with him will be a great fit. They're a high passing team. He's a great pass catcher out of the backfield, great with the blitz pickup. They were a terrible running team, and you fix a terrible running team by getting a very good running back that suits everything that you want to do in a passing game. So if I'm Saquon, I'm looking at the Buccaneers or the Houston Texans.
Texans make a lot of sense. Look, the bottom line is no teams out there are financially prioritizing running backs. That's why I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit when you start to hear the fact. I roll my eyes when I start to hear like the Baltimore Ravens are interested in Derrick Henry. You should be interested in Derrick Henry. You should be interested in Saquon Barkley. You should be interested in Nick Chubb. You should be interested in Josh Jacobs. And the list goes on and on. But it doesn't mean that it makes financial sense. I don't think Saquon Barkley makes a lot of financial sense in a lot of places outside of the Houston Texans. Derrick Henry makes a lot of sense with the Houston Texans. Basically, any team that has a quarterback on a rookie deal running back makes sense for. That's why the Derrick Henry and the Titans relationship, I'm not sure if that's necessarily done. I know that they've opted out of that contract, but it doesn't mean that they can't go back and revisit some of those. You're going to have a rookie quarterback deal moving forward. The Titans have some money to spend. They're rebuilding, obviously, so maybe that's why it doesn't make sense to have Derrick Henry. I like either Saquon or Derrick Henry. I think one of those two premier backs ends up in Houston. Do you agree?
Yeah. I think the Derrick Henry situation makes sense for the Ravens just because, like, all right, Derrick Henry is getting a little bit older. Maybe he's in search of that championship. In the Saquon Barkley situation, I think he's still looking for that big payday. I think Saquon goes to the highest bidder. I think that
makes sense. Yep.
Derrick Henry ends up with the Baltimore Ravens or the Dallas Cowboys.
So I agree with you on that. I was thinking about this earlier today. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley aren't really one and the same as far as where they're at in their careers. Derrick Henry could retire today and will go down as an all-time great. Do you agree?
Yes.
Even without a lot of hardware. Doesn't have an MVP, doesn't have, he just has, but that's the nature of the running back position.
Right.
I mean, Sean Alexander, I think, is the last running back to win MVP. Am I correct in that?
I believe so.
And that was more than a decade and some change ago. So, look, Derrick Henry is going to go down as an all-time great. The only thing he's missing to solidify himself as an all-time great is to go get that hardware. So when I said earlier, it doesn't make sense to him in Baltimore. It does make sense if, for what you just said, he's gotten the big paycheck. Mm-hmm. He's been one of the highest paid running backs for years now. He could shave a little off. He could take a little less to go win that championship. But he can also look at some of these teams with rookie contracts and young quarterbacks and say, hey, I can go play for you. Could he go to Jacksonville? Jacksonville hasn't paid their quarterback yet. Jacksonville's a sleeper team to look out for with Saquon Barkley, especially. But it'll be interesting to see where those guys end up. But the running back market is fascinating. But every year we do this. Every year we assume some of these Super Bowl contenders are going to just load up with this time, and then they draft their running back and go from there. Mm-hmm. But the Bengals gambled with that last year. The Bengals are a Super Bowl contender that just said, you know what? We're going to run it back with Joe Mixon. We're going to run it back with drafting a rookie running back, and it did not work out. Second worst running game in the NFL. So who knows? It's a gamble. We'll see what ends up happening when it's all
Sean Alexander, NFL MVP in 2005. The following year in 2006, LaDainian Tomlinson was the NFL
Oh, damn.
MVP.
I forgot about
what?
I feel like Adrian Peterson.
Yup.
Adrian
2012. Because I was about to start counting how many years in a row it's been a quarterback, but yes, since Adrian Peterson in 2012, it's been all quarterbacks. Peyton, Rodgers, Cam, Matty Ice, Brady, Mahomes, Lamar, Rodgers, Mahomes, Lamar. Starting to get a theme here. With
running back, There you go. Ryan Roth, do you agree with him? Let me make sure people could read this. Curious your thoughts on this. Derrick Henry, his best days are behind him. Do you agree?
Yeah, I believe his best days are behind him, but he's still a very productive running back. I mean, you look at the last game of the regular season when they had absolutely nothing to play for, and the other team, and them being the Jacksonville Jaguars, had everything to play for. He still was running like he was back at Alabama, running through arm tackles, running over folks. I still think he has a lot left in the tank, especially with the Cowboys, with basically being a 1-2 punch with him and Pollard, or if he ends up with the Baltimore Ravens, a 1-2 punch with Dobbins, if Dobbins is able to remain healthy, like a situation like that. The days of him carrying the ball 350, 400 times, no, those are done. But like around 200 carries, 250, yeah, he can still make things work.
So 17 games in a regular season. Here's the thing that's fascinating about this, right? So Christian McCaffrey, 1,459 yards on the season. I mean, he outrushed by 300 yards Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was second in total yards rushing last year. But look, I mean, averaging about just under 70 yards a game, averaging just over 4 yards a carry. Yes, his best days are behind him, but even if he's slightly a tick off of that, to still be at 40, let's say he goes from 4.7 yards a carry to 4, that's still very efficient, and that's still a lot better than the efficiency rating that you're getting from some of these other QBs. So we'll see what happens there. I'm a fan of Derrick Henry. If he takes a pay cut, he makes sense in a lot of places. Derrick Henry ends up in Baltimore, Dallas. That's my take. Saquon, Jacksonville's the sleeper team for me, but I think Houston ends up at Saquon. Can you imagine C.J. Stroud at Saquon Barkley? That would be sick. And then they already have some weapons already as it is, and there'll be a lot of team. T. Higgins, if he ends up, which I think he'll be tagged, but if he hits the free agent market, I could see him ending up, or not. I don't know if he hits the free agent market. I think he would just have to be traded.
He would have to be traded.
So Houston makes sense there too, but I don't know if Cincinnati would trade him in the conference.
9 times out of 10, you don't have a talent like that stay in conference. Like they want to ship you over to the, to the AFC or the NFC in the case of the Cincinnati Bengals and get that compensation. Maybe it's, multiple first rounders for him. But I think T's ultimately going to get a franchise tag. We've been talking about this for months now about the T Higgins situation. Where what are they going to do? What are they going to do? It's really not what the Cincinnati Bengals are going to do. They really don't have any choice but to franchise tag him. It's really all about is when is T going to show up? Is he going to be happy to sign the tag and just show up and be ready to work out? Or is he going to be upset about the tag and try to force a trade, ultimately not get traded, show up a couple weeks before the first game of the season, and then go from there?
All right, next up, again, these are not really headlines, but these are just kind of stories that caught my attention that we always like to kick off the show with. How about this, Kev? According to Front Office Sports on Twitter, Pittsburgh is exploring potential support for a pro basketball team. The city's Sports and Exhibition Authority has agreed to pay a firm up to $90,000 for a feasibility study measuring local demand for an NBA or WNBA team. They said since they've been without an NFL team for so long that they would like to explore adding an NBA team. No, NBA, WNBA team in Pittsburgh. What say you?
Not against it, but I did see Commissioner Adam Silver talking about, expansion of the NBA. The first expansion to the NBA needs to be in Seattle. They need a team back in Seattle before they go anywhere else. So if it's Seattle and Pittsburgh, Seattle and Hawaii, Seattle and Paris, whomever, Seattle needs to be the first team that gets a new team back.
Yeah, I found this interesting.
Look, what about Cincinnati? Cincinnati Royals, baby.
And by the way, that'd be the first outside the Reds. That'll be my second favorite Cincinnati team. I hate all the other Cincinnati teams, so I'd be a big fan of the Cincinnati Royals or whatever you want to do. Bring them back. Bring the NBA to Cincinnati. I'd be a big fan of that. As far as
cut down my drive time.
So nonetheless, but I found that to be interesting. Next up on this, we talked a little bit about it already. We're going to talk about it more with Heather Dinich coming up around the corner. The College Football Playoffs has approved the move to a 5-7 format for the 12-team field starting next season. The 5 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next highest-ranked teams as determined by the College Football Playoff Committee. So they're still going to be able to do that little rankings reveal show every single week. And I think the top, it'll be kind of like Joe Lenardi stuff, like the qualify, the auto bid will go to the leader at the time. So whoever's in first place will get those rankings, I'm assuming, in these conferences, right? And then the committee will still release their dramatic reveal of teams, 6 through 12.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, what say you on this format?
What are they calling it again?
5-7 format.
5-7 format. Sound like they're playing craps.
The 5-7. Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. I'm here for it. I mean, we can complain about the expansion of the college football playoff and everything like that, left and right, but it's here and it's not going anywhere. So we just need to buckle up and get ready to be entertained. We're just going to get home playoff games. We're going to get teams playing at their home stadium for a playoff game. I think that's going to be a cool setting. Hopefully Ohio State's not playing in one of those. Hopefully we've handled our business and have a bye. But, I think it would be cool to see, I don't know, Penn State playing a home game for, the right to move on in the college football playoffs. Definitely going to be a sight to see.
Yeah, again, January 20th will be the national championship game, by the way. That'll be the national January 20th will be
that MLK Day,
the national championship game. If it's a Monday, is it?
Yeah.
So there's that, but that's kind of what we're working with here. But the first playoff game will be in mid-December. I'm trying to pull up the exact date. Here it is. So, oh no, I don't have that in front of me. My apologies. But yes, it will be in here we go. So the first round will be December 20th. The quarterfinals, December 31st and January 1st. The semifinals, January 9th and 10th. And then 10 days later. Oh, so the semifinals, you have one game one day and one game the next. It won't be the back-to-back semifinals. So, yeah, they're mixing it up quite a bit.
Yeah, and that is MLK Day, Monday, January 20th.
So flying to the hoop all day, go home, watch the national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Eric. No, don't go home and watch the national championship game because the game's going on. My bad, Eric Horseman. My bad. I got your back. But you know what? Who cares about national championship college football? But that is a problem, though, especially if Ohio State's in it.
Good problems.
Good problems. Those are much better problems to have as far as that's concerned. No doubt about it. All right, my guy. How about this? I found this to be fascinating right off the bat. Didn't take long. Now, he hasn't landed a job yet, but former Ohio State coach Chris Holtmann and DePaul have had preliminary conversations about the vacant Blue Demons head coaching position, according to sources of the Silver Bulletin. Now, before you laugh at the Silver Bulletin was the initial and again, they're just a Twitter account. I know nothing about them. I know I talked to certain reporters that cover Ohio State. They were actually ticked off that this is the Twitter account that actually got the information that broke the story about Chris Holtmann to begin with. Yeah. So I usually don't give this Silver Bulletin a lot of pub, but they are the ones that initially broke the Chris Holtmann story. And they seem to have the scoop on this one that Chris Holtmann's side and the Blue Demons have already had conversations regarding that vacant coaching position.
Good job for Coach. Good job for Coach. You know what I'm saying? Keeping his name out there, keeping, the thing going. I mean, let's be real, man. He wasn't going to not coach. I mean, Coach Holtmann is like, what, 50, if that? He's a relatively young coach. But I will say, man, like, I can't think of the last time I even thought about DePaul basketball, maybe since Quentin Richardson was there.
Been a minute. It's a safe job to go to if you're Chris Holtmann too, especially coming off of that Ohio State job, because you go there and have success, you'll be back to the front of the line for a big name job when it's all said and done. Although I still look at Chris Holtmann as that Shaka Smart kind of guy, that like an Archie, even though Archie has not returned. Like Shaka's doing a good job where he's at right now. Kind of that I think the Big East is like a perfect spot. Today's Big East is a perfect spot for him. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Indeed. And as I'm looking at that, I think I'm right. I think that's the last time I actually watched DePaul basketball consistently, because I remember me and Quentin Richardson graduated high school at the same time. And I was like, man, that's a big dude. Like, they growing him like that in Chicago. Goodness gracious.
Shaw, what up, Shaw? He goes, Ron Howard, if I gained that much, all that time off, Justin, you look like you packed on 10 to 15 pounds.
No, you look slimmer, bro.
What the hell did I do to deserve that? Gosh dang it, Ron. You know what? You're not getting the rest of your Frickers bucks. How about that? That insult cost you $25 in Frickers bucks.
That'll cost you.
What did I do to deserve that? Now, this red shirt is making me look like I'm ballooning out. I mean, I'm almost filling up a whole frame on the Facebook feed here. Now I'm going to be all self. I mean, I am just chowing down on a candy bar here. Taco John's is about to be feeding us here around the corner. I keep looking at the time like, I know we have Heather Dinich coming up around the corner, but at the top of the hour, we got some Taco John's coming up, so I'm pretty jacked about that.
Feed me.
But
nonetheless. Feed me, Seymour.
Shaw says, possible hot take here, but what about the Steelers for Saquon Barkley?
No, Saquon's going to require payment, and we got a running back on his rookie deal that they about to go ahead and give money to, and then they also got running back and Warren, who was an undrafted free agent that they're not paying. But we need to be worried about finding a quarterback. Well, running game was perfectly fine last year. Need a quarterback.
Yeah, Shaw, I don't think running back's at the top of the list for the Steelers right now. I mean, Najee Harris had averaged more yards a carry than Saquon did last year. Now, I'm not here to tell you that I would pick Najee Harris over Saquon.
Agreed.
But Najee is 1,000-yard back. That's all. You just need a guy that can get you 1,000 yards on the season. It's a little easier now because that one extra game, you're hoping that you don't have to play that one extra game because you're resting your starters for the playoff the following week. No, I mean, look, Saquon, any team out there should want Saquon Barkley.
Right.
No matter what your situation is. But needing Saquon Barkley and wanting are two different things. Do the Steelers, will they want him? Yes. Do they need him? No. By the way, you don't like this, but the Russell Wilson thing, every show you watch, Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh.
It is. Look, I think we talked about this. I'm not sure if we did. It's probably going to happen. It's most likely going to happen. I think that ultimately what's going to happen with the Steelers is that Mason Rudolph's going to sign somewhere else, maybe like Carolina or something like that, because he's from South Carolina. Maybe he'll sign there and be a backup or start the season out with the Carolina Panthers. The Steelers won't have to pay Russell Wilson any money once he's cut from the Denver Broncos. They'll have to pay out his contract. They'll be able to pay him the league minimum, and they're rolling there with Russell Wilson, who's flamed out on two teams, and then Kenny Pickett. And we'll be scratching our way to the playoffs again.
I'm done saying last place because it always backfires, but I'm just gonna say not winning the Super Bowl. How about that? You should be praising me. You should be happy I'm saying that because I'm usually wrong about your team. And Ron, he's getting better with his comebacks, by the way.
Oh,
I said because he called me fat, he doesn't get the Frickers bucks anymore, and he goes, "Well, it looks like you use them."
You remind me of my brother.
Damn, Ron. I mean, this is some bullying stuff right here.
Be nice,
man.
We came to work today.
Let's see. Roth had another one. Ryan Roth. So we have Heather Dinich coming up. Ryan Roth said you should ask Dinich about how she broke the Bobby Knight Neil Reed story. Ryan, we've had Heather on. I mean, Heather comes on regularly throughout the college football season, but I remember we had her on close to around the timing of Bob Knight's passing.
Mm-hmm.
That was wild. So Heather Dinich was a student news. She wrote for the student newspaper at Indiana. I don't know what it was called there, Indiana. So whatever the student newspaper was, Bobby Knight during that stretch refused to work with local media. He hated the Indy Star. He hated all the local newspaper outlets, the news outlets. So what he did as a way to kind of stick it back to those papers was he really respected the student reporters at the university. Now, here to tell you, this is not a shot at Heather Dinich, but it was a shot at those local reporters because he used you know what I mean? Like, I know when I was in college, your student radio, your student reporter, like the media outlets look down on you like, oh, you're just a student newspaper guy. You're a student radio guy. Right. So, but Heather Dinich, true professional, look what she's done with her career. She obviously knew what the hell she was doing. But Bobby sat down with Heather Dinich, a student reporter for the student newspaper at Indiana, and broke this story. And her career took off. She, was massive ever since. So, but yeah, she has a great story, Ryan, and we've talked about that with her. But yeah, we'll throw it out there to her. She's going to come on with us here in about 5 minutes. So
it's called the Indiana Daily Student.
Oh, there you go. Has student in it. There you go. But yeah, Heather's awesome. Let's talk about the college football playoff expansion. We knew it was going to be 12 teams, but man, all the way to January 20th. What if the team that wins it will ultimately end up playing 17 games?
Goodness gracious.
Is that correct? You play 12? I mean, so you play 12 games in the regular season, a conference championship game. That's 13. First, second, quarter, semifinal. Or no?
Yeah, because
first, quarterfinal, semifinal. Yeah, 17 games. That's wild.
If you have to play all of them, if you're fortunate enough to run the table, but like I know they got like bye weeks for like the top seeds as well. So
17 games. Unbelievable.
It's almost like it's professional.
We got college basketball around the corner as well. Ohio State knocked off Purdue.
Hey.
Jake Diebler. Was that, we see a lot of times teams fire a coach and they play that inspired type of play the next time. It's actually common to win after firing a coach mid-season. Look at the Raiders, what they did this year. But we'll talk about that later on in the hour. But we will talk some college football when we come back. ESPN's Heather Dinich. She joins us next. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
The forecast, clear skies, 30 tonight, mostly sunny, 58 tomorrow. Thursday, showers and 55. I'm Rick Shrimp for 1410 ESPN Radio.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6759. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6759. That's 800-575-6759. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
I lock up my Old Spice Fiji aluminum-free dry spray to keep that 24/7 lasting freshness safe for myself. Fresh coconuts, palm trees in the wind. It's like catching waves in Fiji. Actually, I just talked myself into a refreshing spritz of Fiji. My Old Spice is missing! No!
If you're looking to get a new car, you could really cut expenses by bundling your car and renter's insurance with Progressive. Sure, you love your old car, but you know it's not normal to give instructions on how to open the window. It should be self-explanatory, but it's not. And notice how when you're in other people's cars, you can feel cushion in the seats? That's pretty nice, right? No, it's just normal. So bundle your renter's and car insurance with Progressive and put the savings toward a new car. It's time. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers. Not available in all states.
Do you have an oak tree in your yard? The Ohio Chapter International Society of Arboriculture is committed to advancing responsible tree care practices while preventing a fungal disease called oak wilt. They remind those who own and manage oak trees the best time to prune is November to early March. To find out more, there are over 1,000 qualified tree experts in Ohio. To find an ISA-certified arborist in your area, visit treesforohio.org. That's trees4ohio.org.
Tax season is here, and I'm sure you're thinking, who's going to do my taxes? Try my friends at Arrowhead Tax Service in New Carlisle. Call Michael and Justin today at 937-543-5770. They're ready to serve you at 113 West Jefferson Street in New Carlisle. At Arrowhead Tax Service, they give back to the community through athletics and nonprofits. At Arrowhead Tax Service, all new clients save 10% off online at arrowheadtaxservice.com, where their target is your satisfaction.
Everybody knows that Roosters is a fun, casual joint with their award-winning waitstaff, great food, fun, and laughter. It's a quick stop on the way home to sit back and unwind. It's a front row seat to the big game. Roosters is where you, your family, and friends can order pizza, sandwiches, salads, and more. And the home of award-winning wings that are fresh, never frozen, and so big you won't believe it. It's your family's other dinner table. Roosters, a fun, casual joint, and proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
Hey, let me tell you about the advantages of driving with my friends at Cordell Transportation. First of all, for the new year, they're offering brand new equipment to drive. They purchased new equipment, and not a lot of people could say that, but they've got it, and they're ready to roll with you. Cordell Transportation is offering an incredible $5,000 sign-on bonus paid over 18 months. If you're an experienced Class A CDL driver looking for excellent benefits, home daily dedicated lanes, no-touch freights, then apply today online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Jeeps, trucks, side-by-sides, and more. Don't miss the 10th Annual Dayton Off-Road Expo, February 24th, 9 to 6 p.m., February 25th, 10 to 4 p.m., at the Roberts Center in Wilmington, Ohio. Show rigs, off-road vendors, and more. Admission is only $10 per adult. Kids 12 and under are free. Presented by Muddy Buddies Jeep Wrangler Club and sponsored by Wilmington Auto Center. Don't miss the Dayton Off-Road Expo, your ultimate destination for all things off-road.
Discover wants everyone to feel special with live 24/7 customer service. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Limitations apply.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. We'll get back to your social media responses coming up in a moment. We're live on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, live on ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel, and, of course, live on 1410 Wing AM, streaming at iHeart, Odyssey. I mean, the TuneIn, the list goes on.
Everywhere.
So there's that. All right. So again, we knew that the college football playoff format was going to, change to the 12-team playoff. We knew unfortunately, we had to watch the Michigan Wolverines hoist the trophy. Ohio State won the very first ever 4-team college football playoff national championship, and Michigan had to, get the last laugh, I guess. But all things will be different coming up this college football season, not just from conference expansion, but, new teams, new faces, new places, all of that. But the 12-team playoff will officially be upon us. We got some more details today. The first round, December 20th and December 21st. Quarterfinals, the 31st and January 1st. Semifinals, the 9th and 10th. And then the college football playoff national championship will crown a champion on January 20th. So just a few weeks longer than usual.
Let's get it on.
I like it. All right. So joining us now, covering all things college football, covering all things for the playoff, everything with ESPN, of course, one of our favorite guests to bring on the show. We have Heather Dinich hanging out with us. Heather, we appreciate your time. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
So again, January 20th. That's when the season will end. Did you get paid more for having to work further into the year? I mean, how does this work for you?
Hey, do you want to be an agent?
I'm not a very good agent for me, so I don't know.
No, it's going to be, I think overtime is going to be an understatement this season for everyone involved in college football. But I am genuinely excited for it because it's all going to start really in the month of November. I think people are going to really start to feel and see how different it is because we're all going to be talking about so many more teams with a chance at this thing.
And so we've talked, look, it's here. There's no more debating about should it go to 12, should it stay at 4. It's officially a 12-team playoff. One of the concerns was that it would water down the regular season. I mean, is that still something that you were concerned about with this? That the games in September, October, November may not mean as much now because so many more teams are going to be sitting at the playoff table when it's all said and done?
I personally don't think it's going to water down the regular season at all. And I understand, particularly for college football traditionalists, how different this year is going to seem. But at the end of the day, when people are watching Ohio State play Oregon, I don't think anyone is really going to be like, oh, they're not in the Pac-12 anymore. It's going to be a great game, and people are going to be excited for it. It's going to continue to mean something, as are these conference championship games. We're never going to see an undefeated Power 5 conference champion like Florida State be left out again. But there are going to be big-time debates that people don't realize are going to happen. And I think if anyone thinks the 12-team playoff is going to solve problems, that's not necessarily the case. So there's going to be a lot of issues, and it's going to be a lot of fun debates.
Kev, you know how they say more money, more problems?
Yeah.
College football's theory is more problems, more money. I mean, they make money. Yeah. If it bleeds, it leads, basically. So there's that. But
Heather, so what's the buzz from the coaches? I mean, it's one thing to know it's on the horizon, but what's the buzz now that it's officially here?
Well, I think there is certainly some excitement about the fact that there are opportunities for those 7 at-large teams. When you look at teams like Notre Dame, which cannot win a conference championship, those 7 at-larges are a lifeline to the college football playoff. It's going to be very difficult for fans to reconcile with the fact that, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, Ohio State wins the Big Ten, Michigan is the runner-up. Well, Michigan might be a top 4 team as the Big Ten runner-up, but it can't finish higher than the 5th seed, which means Michigan would have to win 4 straight games to win the national title.
Wow.
Because the top 4 seeds go to the highest ranked conference champions. So that pertains to the SEC as well. Look at 2021. Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship game. Alabama's number 1 in the country on selection day. Georgia's number 3. A 12-team playoff, Georgia would be the number 5 seed and have to win 4 games. So there are things like that until it happens, it might be hard for some fans to digest.
So when you start talking about, when they start putting in the 5 highest ranked conference champions, I mean, with so much uncertainty for the Pac-12 and some of these other conferences moving forward, it's like, does this open the door? I mean, what conferences are we really talking about here? I mean, it sounds weird. I mean, how many more conferences, especially, the future uncertain for some of these moving forward? It's going to be interesting. The American Conference really benefits from this greatly, right? I mean, obviously they've been watered down because they lose Cincinnati and they lose some of these bigger schools, but they kind of benefit from this greatly, don't they?
Yes. In theory, a group of 5 team is obviously going to have a guaranteed shot at this, which is something that hasn't happened before. They've faced such unrealistic expectations of not only going undefeated, winning their league, but also knocking off a ranked Power 5 opponent along the way, right? A la Cincinnati in 2021, I think it was. But when we're talking about the 5 highest ranked conference champions, and you're assuming that it's the ACC, Big 12, Big 10, and SEC conference champions that are going to get those 4 first-round byes, I would caution to say, hold on, wait a minute, and point back to that Cincinnati year, because that year, the ACC produced a champion that was number 12 on selection day. Pitt had 2 losses that year.
Yep.
So there is the off chance you can have a Tulane or a Liberty who's undefeated and ranked ahead of a mediocre conference champ, maybe from the Big 12 or the ACC, that has 2 or 3 losses. So that's why the college football playoff and everyone else should be careful not to use specific language saying it's for 4 power conferences and the group of 5, because while it is, you just don't know who's going to get those 4 highest seeds. It may or may not be all 4 of those power conferences.
You know, Justin and I have been talking about this for quite some time, and I've been a proponent of saying get ready for parity in college football, because I think with the transfer portal, NIL, and now the expansion of the college football playoff, the days of, you know, Ohio State and Alabama just, you know, running roughshod over everybody might be gone, and you might be able to start getting ready to see, like, all right, man, a good year is 11-2 and a deep run into the college football playoff. Do you see that as something that we're getting ready for, the world of, you know, basically the NFL in college football?
I think it's fair to say that this 12-team field could redefine what is a good season, because in the past, the bar to reach the playoff, I mean, essentially it's felt like playoff or bust, right? Which is why you've had so many of these opt-outs in a lot of these other bowl games and giving them a spring type feel, because now in a 12-team playoff, there is more margin for error. You can lose 2 games and play for the national championship. So in that regard, yes, but I would disagree a little bit that there might be more parity, because I think as NIL piles on, the difference between programs like Ohio State that have the resources and the finances to put together the kind of team Ryan Day is going to have this year, which is making them the favorite, differs greatly from other programs that can't compete at that level for that type of NIL money and those resources. But you know what? That's just another faction of the differences between the haves and the have-nots in college football. And I think it just furthers that separation, to be honest.
ESPN's Heather Dinich covers college football, hanging out with us here today. It's a Kenner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. You know, when the 4-team college football playoff, you know, at this time that year heading into the inaugural 4-team college football playoff, it was just exciting. It was new. This is exciting and new as well, but we didn't know what to expect. And we saw some wild things happen that led to Ohio State, you know, making the playoff, ultimately going on to win a national championship with their 3rd-string quarterback. And, you know, many believe that the committee used TCU as an example to force a conference to get a conference championship. Are there problems that you've kind of have in the back of your mind that we haven't anticipated yet with this 12-team playoff? Maybe that, you know, conferences didn't anticipate when the 4-team playoff was here?
One thing that could really cause some debate is the 12th spot, because I don't think people realize that the 12th team on selection day could get bumped out of the bracket in favor of that group of 5 champion. For example, last year, Oklahoma was the committee's 12th team. You think you're feeling pretty good because you're number 12. There are 12 teams in the playoffs. Well, hold on a minute. The highest ranked group of 5 conference champion would be number 23 Liberty, Conference USA champ, would have gotten in at the expense of Oklahoma. Sooners fans are not going to like that. And the year before that, same thing would have happened to Washington. It was number 12 on selection day in favor of Tulane, the American Athletic Conference Championship, ranked below them at number 16. So this is something even the big bad SEC isn't going to be immune to. You could have LSU sitting there at number 12 and get bumped out for the likes of Tulane. So that's one thing that I think college football fans are going to be like, wait, what?
Yeah, this seems like something that we're really going to have to watch play out, and also going into the season, actually read the book, read the rules, read how it actually works, because, you know, we have our preconceived notions about how things should work. Well, they don't do it like that in the NFL. They don't do like that in the NBA. They play out on the court. The college football playoff is a unique situation.
It certainly is. And you know what? The seeding alone is going to be new, because we're so conditioned over the past decade to see the college football playoff selection committee's ranking on selection day and think you got it. But as soon as that happens, those rankings go out the door and it switches to seedings. it's sort of like college basketball. Nobody's talking about in March Madness, once the bracket's released, at least I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong here, that it's like number one Duke or whatever. It's number one seed as soon as you're talking about the tournament, right? And college football is going to be the same way.
Interesting. So, and I should have read this before we started. So will teams be hosting? Will there be home games?
First round.
The first round. So
only in the first round.
But teams will get buys, correct? So from a business perspective, wouldn't you want to host an extra? I mean, there's so much money that goes to these home games. Like, do you see conflict there where teams are like, well, we like the buy, but we also kind of hate that we're missing out on hosting a home game?
Right. Yes. I mean, that's certainly an issue and a question, but at the same time, the New Year's Six Bowls want to continue to have a presence and a role in the college football playoffs. So, all of these things are open for discussion in the next contract, which begins after the next two seasons. But for at least this year and next year, they're going to try those first round games at home and then move on to the New Year's Six Bowls for the quarterfinals. Yep, that's right. Quarters, semis, and the national championship.
I was doing the same thing before you came. I was like using my hands. I felt like a fourth grader. I was like counting on my fingers. I'm like, wait a minute, what is happening? ESPN's Heather Dinich. Heather, I know we only have you for about one more minute. I know Kev wants to get in an NFL question with you real quick, but you're national champion next year. You're way too early. College football inaugural national champion. Just tell us it's the Buckeyes, right? Like everyone's reeling after having to watch that cheating team up north hoist the championship trophy. We need to know that the national media has Ohio State's back in this, right? Like the loaded roster. It's been a wild offseason for them, no doubt.
It's been a wild off season. Look, you can flip a coin between Ohio State and Georgia right now for 1-2, but I think at this stage in February,
like it.
You know what? Because you know your audience, right? Sure, Ohio State number one. I'll roll with it.
There we go. Love it.
Last thing for me on the way out, Heather. You're a Steelers fan. I'm a Steelers fan. What are we gonna do at quarterback?
Oh my gosh. Right before I went on SportsCenter last week, Al Duncan and Kevin Nagandi were asking me how I feel about Justin Fields at quarterback. And I'm like,
Know your audience.
Good call. Look, I don't care who it is. Just figure it out, because I felt like I was watching Penn State's offense last year. Like, just find somebody who can get the ball, because we've got running backs. There was a good offensive line. Pickens can catch the ball, for crying out loud. There are playmakers around them. So they just got to figure it out. But I will stand by Mike Tomlin to the grave, because I think that he's hands down the best coach in the NFL.
I concur.
Never had a losing season. It's the only banner to put up. But I'm a Browns fan, so I'm going to sit this one out. As a Browns fan. We'll just call it even. ESPN's Heather Dinich. Always fun when she comes on. Heather, thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Later.
All right, good stuff. But yeah, that's, we talk about the college football playoff. You want to host a game, right? Like, can you imagine? But if you're hosting a game, that means you're not a conference champion.
Yeah, that means you're playing the extra game and then jeopardizing, injury and everything like that. I want to win the conference and have a bye, get my guys rested up, because shoot, this isn't like the old days, like when, Coach Tressel was running the Buckeyes, where it was like 60-day layoff between the game versus Michigan and the national championship game. Like, you win your conference championship that's like the first Saturday in December. You're playing 2 weeks later. So I would much rather go ahead and win the conference championship, get rested up, and get ready for a deep playoff run for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, but it's going to be kind of weird, because you're going to have that conflict of a coach, like Ryan Day wants that first round bye, but Ross Bjork, the money guy, is like, well, hold on. Let's just, kind of want that extra home game. That's a couple mil right there for the program. I mean, do it for the program.
Coach Day,
do it for the brand.
Coach Day better not lose no games.
I was gonna say, he can't afford.
Yeah, he can't afford to lose any games for the betterment of the bank account of the Buckeyes. If he's looking out for his own bank account, he better win all the games.
Because if not, you end up like Chris Holtmann. And that's a perfect transition into the final part of the hour. When we come back, Ohio State in their first game without Chris Holtmann leading the way. Well, they fill up the shot. They welcome in the number 2 team in the country. They knock out the number 2 team in the country. Jake Diebler, what's the chances? What's the likelihood that they go on enough of a run for him to potentially keep this job? Is March still at all an option? I mean, technically the Big Ten Championship's in March, but is an extended March run still a potential possibility? Plus the Dayton Flyers, they, the rankings came out yesterday. They stayed the same. We'll talk about what's coming up for them as well. Wright State basketball, Ohio State basketball, Dayton Flyers basketball. Coming up next, Kenner and Cap, 1410 Wing AM.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
37,000, 25, 1. These are the 3 numbers to remember to get the visibility and control you need to make the right business decisions instantly. 37,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down expenses. 1. Because your business is one of a kind. So you get a customized solution for all of your KPIs in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need to grow, all in one place. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance absolutely free at netsuite.com/company. That's netsuite.com/company to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/company.
February is Children's Dental Health Month, so make sure you make an appointment for your child to visit an Ohio Dental Association member dentist. ODA member dentists are located throughout the state and are dedicated to providing the highest quality dental care, are bound by the highest ethical standards, and have access to superior ongoing education and training. On your next visit, ask if your child's dentist is a member of the Ohio Dental Association and American Dental Association, so you know you're being treated by the best. To find an ODA dentist in your area, visit ODA.org.
Many Vietnam War veterans were unknowingly exposed to dangerous chemicals impacting their health and quality of life. There are now expanded benefits for veterans exposed to Agent Orange. Veterans with Parkinsonism, bladder cancer, or hypothyroidism who previously applied for VA disability compensation but were denied should reapply and might be eligible for retroactive compensation. Exposed veterans who have not yet applied should consider filing a new claim. For assistance, call Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission at 937-225-4801.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Save big money on Clearview Cabinetry. Clearview Cabinetry starts as a kitchen built for now and grows with you as life changes. It's flexible by design with full access cabinet construction, so you can go from doors to drawers for storage that works when you need it. Explore Clearview's cabinet options in store and on Menards.com and save big money today. Check out more of our great deals going on now at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
At Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, we've always been famous for more. More than a time-tested recipe that took decades to develop. More than our secret blend of savory herbs and spices. More than the hand-dipped, hand-battered, fried to perfection chicken you've come to know and love. Because while you may not know it yet, Lee's is famous for fish, too. Get a tasty fish fillet, crispy potato wedges, creamy tartar sauce, and a regular drink at a great price. Only at Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a game-changing checking account with cash back. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Meet Cheryl. Hey. She's on vacation and lost in the moment. Unfortunately, so is her Chase debit card.
It's got to be somewhere.
Maybe she lost it at salsa night.
These skirts should have pockets.
Or maybe she lost it at Pilates.
3 and 2 and...
But she's not worried. With the Chase mobile app, she can lock her card till it turns up. Tools that help protect. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Good stuff from ESPN's Heather Dinich. Talking about things college football playoffs. Yes, in February, but interesting changes coming to the college football playoff era. Yeah, the reason I asked her that question about are there some maybe challenges or problems that that you're worried about anticipating? Because think about that year at this time, February, heading into the fall of the 2013-2014 season. I don't think that the Big 12 had anticipated that they were going to use them as an example to get a conference championship, or not Big 12, the Big 12 with TCU, right? Using TCU as a pawn to force them to get a conference championship, just so they could ignore conference championships multiple seasons moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that we're not anticipating something that's going to come out of thin air.
Absolutely, because when you're dealing with a committee that doesn't have set rules in place that kind of, can play it by ear, go by feel as opposed to, how the NBA or the NFL is. Hey, you play the game, whoever wins, you keep it moving. When you have something like this where, hey, man, we keep it vague for a reason. Vague is a good thing for business in that situation. You know what I'm saying? You keep it vague so the arguments keep on going. And in today's media landscape, arguments sell. I mean, shoot, look at the biggest show on ESPN, his First Take. Their whole thing is debate.
Well, and like I said before, college athletics, if you were to take someone who's never heard of sports before and try to explain to them the concept of college athletics, Kev, there's nothing that makes sense about it. We think baseball doesn't make sense because there's not a
clock.
There's not a clock, but there's no spending limit. There's no cap. There's no cap. There's no salary cap, right? We think baseball doesn't make any sense because there's no salary cap. The Yankees can spend and the Dodgers can spend and spend and spend while the Reds have all these limits, right? And we think, oh man, that I just can't believe that this sport operates that way. Well, that makes still a hell of a lot more sense to me than anything that's happening in college athletics when you have all Division I teams, but Wright State and Kentucky, they're Division I teams. Stop. But they're Division I teams, so you have this perception that
watch it, buddy.
they all have the same amount of opportunities as everyone else. That's not the case whatsoever due to limited funding and all that stuff, the funding gap and all that. And that's college athletics as a whole. Oh, Bowling Green, Miami of Ohio, congratulations, expanded 12-team playoff format. You still don't have a chance in hell. You still don't have a snowball's chance in hell of even making the playoff, much less winning a national championship. So nonetheless, if you missed that conversation with Heather Dinich, we'll have more of that for you later on. But Ohio State, they fired Chris Holtmann. Jake Diebler named the interim head coach, Kev. And then, of course, it gets more challenging because the very first test that he and the Buckeyes have to face after moving on from their head coach, Chris Holtmann, is the number 2 ranked Purdue Boilermakers. And, well, they come out with a win. They knock off, Purdue 73-69 this past Sunday and has everybody talking in some form. Some are saying, see, Chris Holtmann was the problem. Right, which, by the way, Chris Holtmann needed to go. I don't think he needed to go with 6 games left. However, you could say, well, Kinner, this is why he needed to go. Look at that win. Well, if that's really the case and they missed the NCAA tournament, then Gene Smith waited too damn long to make the change. That was my whole point. If you were going to do it in mid-December or mid-January. Do it at the end of January. But doing it with 6 games left in the regular season made no sense to me. So it's a double-edged sword. If you go on this big little run and still miss the tournament, Kev, that means you still made the wrong decision because you made it too late. And you know what I mean? So to me, I don't know what that says about that. We'll get to that later. But I will say, I don't know what to make of that win. I love to see the fight. Those guys never quit on Chris Holtmann to begin with. We never once said, oh, man, it looks like that team's quit on him. Every game was competitive. I think the biggest blowout was a 20-point loss to Northwestern a couple weeks ago. Outside of that, everything has been, they had a chance to beat Wisconsin. They've been in every game. They never quit on Holtmann. So what does that win say to you? Is there life left in there? Is there a chance that they can go on some historic run to close out the final 5 games of this regular season and make a run in the Big Ten tournament like we saw them do last year? I don't know what to make of this, but I do know that a lot of times we see a midseason firing and the team plays inspired, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever. I need to see this upcoming game. I need to see the next couple of games to see if they're really buying into this change in direction with Jake Diebler leading the way.
Well, when you got Minnesota coming up, you got Michigan State coming up, you got Nebraska, then you got the cheaters up north, and then you close the season out with Rutgers. They can win all of those games without a doubt. Those are all games they can win. But the problem is those are games they can also all lose. I think it just speaks to the parity of college basketball that we're dealing with now. It's kind of similar to the question I was asking Heather about parity in college football. Like, we still haven't grasped our mind around, parity in college basketball because, nobody's looking at Kentucky as the team to beat this year. So we haven't got that far with basketball. So I'm sure we're not going to get that far with football. I think it just speaks to parity, man. I think that is a lot of teams that could be anybody on any given night and a lot of teams that you could lose to on any given night. I said this last week about the team that I follow, Syracuse. They lost to North Carolina by 30, and then a week later, they beat them by 10. And then what did Syracuse do the very next game? They lost to Georgia Tech, the worst team in the ACC. This thing is topsy-turvy.
Yeah, none of it makes any sense, but I do know that even with Ohio State's bad year, they still have 15 wins as we sit here right now.
Yeah.
You can win these next 5 against winnable teams. You talked about those teams coming up. Now, they have no ranked opponents coming up, okay? But they're still Big Ten opponents. You could laugh at that, but that matters, okay? They've already beaten Minnesota and Rutgers once this season, okay? But you've lost to Michigan. I still like Ohio State at home in this one. They lost to Nebraska, but they've yet to play Michigan State. They realistically could win these next 5 and be a 20-win Big Ten team heading into the Big Ten tournament. Now I'm going to say they probably go 4-1 over the next 5.
I'll take that.
4-1 over the next 5. That's a 19-win team. You win 2 games. You get to 21, 22 wins. All of a sudden, I think you're a bubble team at that point. Yeah, I'm not guaranteed that they're getting in, but I think a bubble team, if you can get to that 22-win mark in your next 8 games, I think that they can afford 1 to 2 more losses to maybe be alive.
Yeah, you have an opportunity to play yourself onto the bubble going into the conference championship week. And to be perfectly honest, that's all you really can ask for at this point. Like, that's a best case scenario. Like, hey, man, shoot, we're going into conference championship week with something to play for, something to say, like, all right, man, we don't have to go ahead and win the whole conference championship to punch our ticket. If things, quote unquote, go our way in the other championship games where there aren't any upsets and, things of that nature, all the guaranteed teams win their divisions or conferences, we go out here and win 2 games, then maybe we are dancing. Maybe we are, playing at UD Arena. as the first 4 or something like that.
And I'm sure, people would not mind that at all. I
Go
mean,
Bucks.
look, they have wins over UCLA. They have wins over, Alabama, who's number, I think, like 13 or 14 in the country. Right now, they just beat the number 2 team in the country, who's now sitting at number 3, Purdue.
That's 2 quad 1 wins.
Yeah. So, you start to stack those. I will say this about Jake Diebler. His dad, legendary coach, high school coach in Ohio, too, is brother John played at Ohio State. I remember my high school coach, Dave Freilich, was really good friends with John and Jake's dad. And at Upper Sandusky, they played a style that, it was just so intense. It was, they would literally trap every single inbounds play, every single pass on the corners. They played so intense. Their dad ran a practice for us a couple times during the season when we did some joint practices with them, some preseason stuff. And I'm not going to lie, his dad was the most intense coach I'd ever seen in my life. Okay. He didn't stop. He ran with you. He would almost run along the sideline and help trap in the corners too. That's just how intense the Diebler family is. We saw that intensity from Jake Diebler this past weekend. I don't know what the future of Jake Diebler is as head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, but he leads them to the NCAA tournament. We could be looking at a situation that happened with Texas last year.
Right.
And I forgot his name or whatever, but he took over in the interim as well for Chris Beard and led them to the tournament. And then he ends up getting that extension. Who knows? The players responded to Diebler.
Right.
They never quit on Holtman. Ohio State has a shot. That's all that matters. We'll see what ends up happening when it's all said and done. But I love to see that. That was the defense too. Playing inspired basketball, and there was some life at the shot. There was some life to Ohio State basketball for the first time in a long time.
My only hesitation on, with the Coach Diebler situation would be this isn't yesteryear where we don't have the transfer portal. If, if it wasn't a situation where guys could exit and leave the program, I would say this is a very, very serious contender for the job. I think he still is a contender for the job. How the season plays out, obviously give him a fair shake at an interview and see how things go. But with the transfer portal, no matter how much these guys respond to Coach Diebler, they can still go elsewhere. That would be my hesitation. Be like, oh man, then the guys that he responded to, the guys he's already coached, the guys that he's recruited decided to leave. What about that? I will say this about Ohio State. Obviously, give Coach Diebler a genuine look and a genuine interview, but don't short yourself. Go out there and find somebody else as well. Go do the whole interview process, because you never know. You might find a gem, or you never know. Jay Wright might say, you know what, I want to be a Buckeye too.
And that's the thing. Last thing, I know we got to bounce out here, but bottom line is if I'm cheering for Diebler to make a run here. I still don't want him to be the head coach of the Buckeyes next year. You don't go from Holtman to Diebler and take a chance with another up-and-coming coach. You kind of have to go for a proven guy, especially if they're going to throw some NIL dollars that way, nonetheless. So there's that 73-69. That was a big win there. Wright State winners over Robert Morris this past weekend as well. They put their 7th 100-point game up of the season.
Buckets.
Or no,
buckets,
7th.
Buckets,
that was their
buckets.
Yeah, that was their 9th 90-point game of the season. Their 7th 100-point game of the season. 101-71 the final over Robert Morris. That's how you beat bad teams.
Shoot up.
Teams. So,
Dayton,
Are
jerseys coming in anytime soon?
Dayton stayed the same. There's number 16 in the country. The rankings came out. They're ahead of Kentucky.
What about our warm-ups?
I don't know. But Dayton 21-4. They beat Fordham. They held on for dear life to beat a bad Fordham team. Then you got their fans saying, when we lose, we move up 2 spots. We win, we don't move up anywhere. It's like you guys don't understand how the rankings work. It's less about what you're doing and more about what everyone else around you is doing. Dayton has remained in the top 25 because a lot of good teams around them have not been good this season. There's a lot of chaos happening right now. More teams are going to be thrown into the fold here as it goes on. But things are heating up, and we only have less than 5 games to go in the regular season for a lot of these teams. So we shall see. It's Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Hungry for a great time? Maybe some great food? Then come on down to your neighborhood Submarine House. Try our oven-toasted deli subs, our mouth-watering salads, pizzas, appetizers, and more. And wash them down with a unique selection of craft beers while watching the big game on our big screens. With locations around Dayton, in Columbus, and our newest sports bar in Kettering, you're never far from a Submarine House. Subs, sports, spirits. Submarine House.
If you need new roofing, siding, or gutters, skylights, or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding in Fairborn has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Lance Roofing and Siding, 8460 Dayton Springfield Road in Fairborn. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722 or online at lanceroofing.com.
Some people just know there's a better way to do things, like bundling your home and auto insurance with Allstate. Visit allstate.com